Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Peter Dubois. First tonight, the owner of funeral homes in Millinocket and Lincoln, who's accused of misusing funds, will have his license revoked for at least the next few years. Our Augusta reporter Corey Bouchard was there as he appeared before the Board of Funeral Services today.
We have 9 different matters, like I said, and he does not dispute any of the facts in any of the complaints against him.
Harold Lamson, the owner of Lamson Funeral Homes in Millinocket and Lincoln, agreed that all of the allegations in the 9 complaints against him were true and accurate. Those complaints are mostly tied to his misuse of funds from funeral trusts. As part of the agreement reached with the Assistant Attorney General representing board staff, Lamson has agreed to suspend his operating license for 5 years, with the option to apply before the board after 3 years. Lamson has 120 days to wrap up any affairs within his business and find a new licensee to run the business or shut down.
It will enable him to wrap up his affairs, and it will enable him, the plan is to, he's already been in contact with another licensee who hopefully can be in place sooner rather than later.
Some board members were hesitant to accept the agreement, saying it's possible 3 years wouldn't be a harsh enough sentence.
A year of surrendering the license is a good start. I believe that there is a lot of oversight here, but there's also a lot of scared people out there right now. So how are we going to make sure that in the time frame that Mr. Lamson has, that those families that are scared right now are going to be treated with dignity and respect?
The board approved the consent agreement unanimously, starting the clock of Lamson's 120 days to get his affairs in order. The commissioner of the Department of Professional and Financial Regulation responded to the hearing by saying, quote, "As commissioner, I play no role in decisions made by a licensing board. Maine citizens should be aware that they may submit complaints against a licensed professional and that their complaint will be handled in an equitable and professional manner while providing due process to the licensee against whom the complaint has been filed." After the hearing, both Lamson and his attorney declined to be interviewed but said they feel the agreement reached was fair to everyone involved. In Gardner, I'm Corey Bouchard for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
4 men have been sentenced for their role in the death of a teenager in Machias. A 5th was sentenced last year. The men were all arrested in the drug-related shooting death of 17-year-old Brandon Guerrero of New York in Machias. The men were accused of ambushing Guerrero in 2021 to steal his backpack, which was reportedly full of drugs. 2 pleaded guilty to charges of murder and robbery and were sentenced to about 4 years in prison. 2 other men who were found guilty received about 40-year sentences. Governor Mills has announced she will not sign any of the 35 bills sent to her desk last Friday. May 10th was veto day, a 1-day extension to the legislative session for lawmakers to address any of the bills vetoed by the governor. During veto day, the legislature also passed 35 additional bills funded using around $11 million of unallocated surplus funds in the approved budget. As veto day came to a close, the Secretary of the Senate tried twice to deliver the bills to Governor Mills, whose legal team refused delivery. At around 10:30 Friday night, after speaking on the House floor, thanking them for their service, it was announced that the governor would accept the bills. Now she says she won't sign any of the bills passed by the legislature on Friday. In a statement, Governor Mills said, quote, "The consideration and enactment of dozens of additional spending bills on veto day without support from 2/3 of each body appears to be without precedent in the history of the Maine legislature. Operating in this way leaves me gravely concerned because it's an erosion of important norms that are central to the conduct of public business and the creation of public policy. Signing any of these bills, no matter how much I may see value in some of them, would send the message that the legislature is allowed to flout its own self-imposed and constitutionally imposed limitations, which would create a precedent for future legislatures to do the same and subject the bills to the threat of serious legal challenge." End quote. There will be no further changes at the Hamden Mail Processing Facility until at least the new year. United States Postal Service Postmaster General Louis DeJoy made the announcement today. The Postal Service has proposed converting the processing and distribution center in Hamden into a local processing center. That move would force outgoing mail to a center 130 miles away in Scarborough. Senator Susan Collins says she believes the pause should not be temporary, that it should be permanent. In a statement, she said, quote, "This USPS pause is welcome news for the people of Maine, As I've said repeatedly, any consolidation of Maine's two USPS processing facilities in Hamden and Scarborough would jeopardize the reliable delivery of mail, to include medication for Mainers who rely on pharmacies and deliveries from federal agencies such as the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs for their prescriptions. A Waldoboro man will spend more than a year behind bars for his role in the January 6th Capitol breach. According to the Department of Justice, 40-year-old Matthew Brackley of Waldoboro attended the Stop the Steal rally before making his way to the U.S. Capitol building. Brackley entered the crypt where a large group of rioters had filled the room and pushed against a line of Capitol police officers. The rioters eventually overwhelmed the officers and gained further access into the Capitol. Officers tried to stop Brackley again in the Senate chamber, but he leaned forward and pushed through them. Brackley pushed against officers a third time in the chamber before police deployed a chemical spray, causing Brackley and others to retreat. In January, Brackley pleaded guilty to assaulting law enforcement officers. A judge sentenced him to 15 months in prison, followed by 2 years supervised release. In 2022, Brackley ran for Maine Senate as a Republican. He was defeated by Senate Majority Leader Eloise Vitelli. National Law Enforcement Appreciation Week is currently being recognized across the country. Today, members of law enforcement, lawmakers, and community members gathered at the Maine Law Enforcement Memorial in Augusta to recognize officers who've lost their lives protecting others. Our Grace Blanchard has the story.
Members of Maine law enforcement marched the streets of Augusta as they made their way to the Maine Law Enforcement Memorial to pay their respects.
Today we stand together to honor their courage and to fill your hearts with our sincere gratitude.
The annual observance service recognizes officers that lost their lives in the line of duty.
It's the ultimate sacrifice that an officer can make, and for these 88 officers, we need to recognize that and to ensure that their memories are not forgotten.
No new names were added to the memorial this year, which currently honors 88 fallen officers. Governor Mills gave the keynote address before each name was read aloud individually.
It's the 32nd anniversary of this ceremony, so something that's very special to us, and it gives us an opportunity to honor their lives, their careers, as well as their families for all that they've given to all of us.
Among the names is Charles C. Black. According to his family, Black was killed during a bank robbery 60 years ago. The family continues to honor him each year and support others who have walked in their shoes.
It's good to see the respect that's now being given and the support. You heard him tell him, don't wait till you can't get the help, you've gone too far. Speak up and get it. And that needs to be done.
In Augusta, Grace Blanchard for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
The Eastern Area Agency on Aging is excited to bring back the Healthy Aging Expo later this week. From 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Thursday, people of all ages are welcome to stop by the Anna Shriners Temple in Bangor for the expo. Organizers promise a wide array of programs on display covering topics from physical health to financial well-being. According to the EAAA Communications Director Christopher Hill, the event is a great way for people of all ages to prepare for the future and take advantage of programs that are currently around them.
Learning about what is in our community before that crisis happens is so important, and this is an opportunity to do that.
One of the main sponsors of the event is Northern Light Home Care and Hospice, and according to the organization's provider relations liaison, Troy Bailey, the connections made at events like the expo are paramount for providing future service.
We really enjoy interacting with the community, and I think that's really important. It provides a meaningful conversation to have with our community.
The event itself is completely free thanks to sponsors like Northern Light. Employers and students from across Maine filled the floor of the Cross Insurance Center today for the Maine Employer Summit. Our Doug Banks was there.
Around 350 employers and 150 students brought their goals, aspirations, and high-tech gear into the Cross Insurance Center on Tuesday.
Today has been pretty interesting and entertaining.
Among the sea of tables and cars from various businesses was People's Inclusive Welding, a nonprofit school which helps underrepresented people a chance to get into the trade.
It can be hard being the only girl or the only person of color in any room. and we want to change that.
Maine colleges provide a place for students to participate in mock interviews and resume reviews.
Most times resumes go through some kind of tracking software now, so job applications, resumes need to really be structured in such a way that they will get through that tracking software to give job candidates the best chance they can to actually have the interview.
An overarching goal behind Tuesday's event was to shine a light on the various careers Maine has and show students they don't have to leave the state to excel in their future.
For some Maine students, it's a real opportunity for them for economic mobility, because as they start to plug into Maine's economy and get to work with some of these businesses, they'll see paths forward for themselves as well.
In Bangor, Doug Banks, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
All right, and looking outdoors, today was really nice for a good chunk of the day. Let's take a first check of our forecast now and see what else is headed our way.
Our first weather tonight is brought to you by Physical Therapy and Balance Centers, providing relief to people who are experiencing issues with pain, dizziness, or balance. Physical is spelled different because they are different. And we had some different looking temperatures out there today. 60s and 70s all over the area. Millinocket hit 70, close to Waterville, 71 degrees right at the coast. Not quite as lucky. We saw that breeze right off the ocean. That's why Rockland into Bar Harbor and Machias, you saw some cooler temperatures only in the 50s and 60s. Now, we are seeing a good amount of clouds, a couple of passing showers, maybe even a rumble of thunder or two, especially west of Bangor. Other than that, we will continue to stay dry. Visibility-wise, though, at 10 miles right now, but we will continue to see a little bit reduced visibilities overnight as temperatures head into those upper 40s.
All right, thank you, Conrad. And still to come on Fox 22 News at 10, volunteers gave their time and effort today to restore one of Lewiston's parks. And the American Beekeeping Federation is bestowing a great honor to a local Mainer. Those stories and more when we come right back.
Transform your surroundings with Paramount Paving, located in Bangor. They are your paving and seal coating experts. Whether it's residential maintenance to full commercial projects, Paramount Paving delivers quality that lasts. Book before June 1st and enjoy a $250 Visa gift card upon completion of your next paving project. Call us today at 602-8931 or visit us at ParamountPavingLLC.com. Paramount Paving, setting the standard for excellence. When it comes to paving, we are Paramount.
Ugh, when is my allergy spray gonna kick in?
You need Astapro.
Astapro?
It's faster, bro. 8 times faster than Flonase.
It's faster, bro.
It's faster, bro!
It's faster, bro.
It's mom to you.
Astapro starts working in 30 minutes. Astapro and go.
Breathing Claritin Clear is like feeling the breeze instead of feeling congested. Fast relief of allergies with nasal congestion so you can breathe better. Claritin plus decongestant. Live Claritin Clear.
Our biggest challenge? Uncertainty. Hidden fees, surcharges, who knows what to expect.
Turn shipping to your advantage.
Keep it simple with clear upfront pricing.
With USPS Ground Advantage.
Jim Small Engine, Snow's Corner Road, Arlington, brings years of experience and a large parts inventory to make your engine as good as new. Lawnmowers, chainsaws, rototillers, wood splitters, generators, blowers, trimmers, and power washers will leave Jim Small Engines fully repaired, shiny clean, and ready to go. Jim Small Engines is an authorized dealer for these top brands and sells a wide array of used engines as well as new and used parts and accessories. Call Jim Small Engines at 825-3527. Check their website and like them on Facebook.
If you're looking to buy or sell a home, chances are you have a lot of questions. Norm Prouty has answers. Learn some tips and tricks and explore some beautiful new homes on the market. The Norm Prouty and Donnell Baker Real Estate Show, Sunday mornings at 8:30 on Fox 22.
It's the unforgettable Farmers Reunion, and everybody's wondering,
are you two still together?
Farmer Wants a Wife Reunion, season finale Thursday on Fox.
Hello, I'm Emma Smith, and coming up on Good Morning Maine, we'll hear about the upcoming event, Alewife Day, at the Maine Forest and Logging Museum. And one of our reporters was lucky enough to do some yoga with cats. We'll check that out. Plus, we'll check out the services that were available at the Healthy Aging Expo in Bangor. These stories and more coming up on Good Morning Maine.
Welcome back. Today, volunteers worked together to restore Veterans Memorial Park in Lewiston. That's after the Androscoggin River swept through it over the winter. Johnny Maffey shows us the project organizers say is a step in the right direction.
I think this is wonderful. This park has been my baby for 8 or 10 years, and
To see it ruined was just heartbreaking.
After the Androscoggin River crested at historic levels back in December, the Veterans Memorial Park took quite a hit. Today, volunteers are continuing the rebuild.
It's so positive. This is the first step, getting a crane in to rescue the gun and the Jeep.
The American Rental Association and the Toro Company are teaming up, donating $20,000 plus equipment and volunteers. These national groups are embracing local connections like Brian Richardson.
We've done numerous events like this across the country and Canada, but it's really special for me because my dad his name is on one of the monuments here, and it's great to be back in my hometown.
Today's goal, build a temporary road for a crane to come in and remove some of the monuments in order to continue the restoration process. Joyce Richmond lost her daughter who served in the Air Force. She thrives on turning tough times into positives.
Nobody should lose a child, but it's given me the opportunity to work, what I like to say is to work with, for, and beside some of the best people in the state, the veterans. And today's a good show of veteran support.
Adding it's important to get this memorial back to what it was.
So everybody can enjoy it and know that our veterans are being taken care of.
And while the park will not be fully reopened before Memorial Day, the ceremonies for that weekend are still on the schedule.
That was Johnny Maffey reporting. It's an entertainment experience that brings awareness to mental health. Melodies for the Mind is an annual fundraising event hosted by Bangor's Unlimited Solutions Clubhouse. The event begins at 6 p.m. this Thursday at Husson University's Gracie Theater. The evening will include performances from members of the Clubhouse, the Main Street R&B Review, and legendary Maine humorist Tim Sample.
Don't just have fun, but you know that the dollars that you're spending to have a good time and buy a ticket and bring your friends are helping to support this. And you might find your curiosity piqued.
And benefits the Unlimited Solutions Clubhouse, a Penobscot community healthcare program that helps adults with mental illness live meaningful and socially satisfying lives. One Clubhouse member spoke with us about how the event will not only help them now, but also those who join the Clubhouse in the future.
Everything we do, the money comes to support us and pay bills to keep us going, or something like this can save somebody's life.
To learn more about the event and where you can purchase tickets, visit our website, foxbangor.com. An 18-year-old beekeeper received a huge honor recently, the first of her kind in New England. Our Callie Warren tells us what all the buzz is about.
Lainey Bell has worked at Swan's Honey in Albion, Maine's largest apiary, since the age of 15. Now she's wearing a crown under her beekeeping suit as the first American honey princess from New England. The recognition is from the American Beekeeping Federation, an organization that supports beekeepers across the country, and Belle will travel to different states to educate others on topics related to beekeeping. She says it's more than a crown and sash. To her, the title means a duty to encourage young people to pursue beekeeping.
There has been a rise in the last few years of female beekeepers, especially young female beekeepers. So it's really important that if you are passionate about something that you feel like you can go out and do it, especially if that is beekeeping.
Her coworkers say they're proud to see her trailblazing for young beekeepers.
Lainey's done a great job for us, and she deserves the honor, and she's doing a good job for the industry.
While Belle says she doesn't plan to become a full-time beekeeper, she plans to pursue it as a hobbyist.
Once you see that life right inside the hive and know that you're responsible for helping these powerful little creatures, it's such a good feeling.
In Albion, Callie Warren, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
All right, a great story there. And coming up on the 10 p.m. news on Fox 22, Secretary of State Antony Blinken says it's a pivotal point in the Ukraine-Russia war following his latest trip from Kyiv. And Michael Cohen finally taking the stand today in Trump's hush money trial. We'll have those stories and more as the 10 p.m. news on Fox 22 continues.
We've been on this property for 47 years. What I've learned along the way is the better tools you have, the easier the job and the better job you get.
He is a former owner of another brand tractor. He wanted green.
Everything has to be pruned and cut, and there's a lot of stuff that has to get moved. You can't get any more American than John Deere, I don't think.
They don't write songs about any other tractor company. It's John Deere.
Experience United, your local John Deere dealer.
It was one thing when my mom got Alzheimer's,
But then we started noticing things that seemed off. She developed agitation that may happen with dementia due to Alzheimer's disease. Sometimes she'd fidget with her fingers, get suddenly overwhelmed, and even throw things. And that was just never her. So we asked her doctor what else we could do.
Rexulti is the only FDA-approved medication proven to reduce agitation symptoms that may happen with dementia due to Alzheimer's disease. Rexulti can cause serious side effects. Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke, report fever, stiff muscles, and confusion, which can be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High blood sugar, which can lead to coma or death, weight gain, increased cholesterol, low white blood cells, unusual urges, dizziness on standing, falls, seizures, trouble swallowing, or sleepiness may occur.
Rexulti helped reduce my mom's symptoms.
Take action for your loved one. Ask their doctor about Rexulti.
Protect your vehicle from rusting away with Bell's Automotive Protection. We are the leader in mobile undercoating and rust-proofing in Maine. We'll travel right to your driveway using the best and safest products on the market. This is much safer than rubberized coatings that can cause damage later on. We spray all types of vehicles, including commercial fleets. We all know vehicles aren't cheap anymore. Don't let the harsh winter chemicals eat them away. Call us or visit our page for a free quote. 207-659-3805.
United Football League on Fox. If you've been injured, call Joe. The law offices of Joe Bornstein.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Ukraine's capital for his first trip to Kyiv since Congress passed a huge military and aid package last month. The visit also comes at a key point in the Russian conflict. Fox's Greg Palcott reports.
It's being called one of the most dangerous times for Ukraine since the start of its war with Russia. Moscow's military smashing into the country's northeast, taking 50 square miles of land, several towns, closing in on the country's second biggest city of Kharkiv. As hard-hit Ukrainian forces, short on guns and ammo, fight back with everything they can muster. And thousands flee for their lives.
Bombs are flying. Rockets and bombs hit 5 or 6 houses.
Into this crisis came Secretary of State Blinken, the first visit of a top U.S. official since the long-delayed $61 billion military aid package was okayed by Congress and President Biden last month. President Volodymyr Zelensky showed gratitude.
For our warriors, thank you that you came, especially these days, to support Ukraine. Thank you for this signal.
Blinken trying to reassure.
The assistance is now on the way, and that's going to make a real difference against the ongoing Russian aggression on the battlefield.
In fact, some U.S. weaponry already said to be there. Critically needed air defense missiles, artillery shells. Russian President Vladimir Putin, just entering his third term in office, fresh from showing off his bristling arsenal, is looking to take advantage of this missile gap.
I do think that Putin is feeling much more confident about his ability to prevail in this conflict, about his ability ultimately to break our will.
As Putin gets his house in order, axing his longtime defense minister, arresting other officials for corruption, heading off to Beijing to meet with allied Chinese President Xi Jinping. And Secretary Blinken, he rounded out his day in Kyiv, heading to a music venue where he played, appropriately or not, Neil Young's classic, Rockin' in the Free World.
Former Ukrainian President Viktor Yushchenko is a little tougher on the U.S. than Zelensky, calling the delayed American military aid a, quote, colossal waste of time, which allowed Putin to inflict more suffering in the war. We'll see. In London, Greg Palcott, Fox News.
Meanwhile, House lawmakers are debating a bill which would prohibit President Biden from pausing weapons transfers to Israel. Democrats are actively opposing the move. Fox's Aisha Hosni explains what's at stake from Capitol Hill.
You guys are pushing to restore the aid to Israel.
In an exclusive sit-down with Fox's Brian Kilmeade, House Speaker Mike Johnson says he's stunned that House Democratic leadership is whipping against a GOP bill to stop President Biden from blocking or conditioning weapons for Israel.
It surprises me, and our plan is to be very aggressive to ensure that the actual will of Congress is maintained.
A whip note obtained by Fox says the bill is another partisan stunt by extreme MAGA Republicans. The bill's co-author disagrees.
The one who's changed his mind once again, the one who is incompetent and inept and confused, is the president of the United States.
The president is facing a mutiny over his Israel policy. Last week, Senate Foreign Relations Chairman Ben Cardin became the highest-ranking Democrat to break with the president's decision to pause aid. And now 26 House Democrats are demanding a classified briefing about the policy change. An official rebuke on the House floor is something the White House wants to avoid.
We strongly oppose attempts to constrain the president's ability to deploy U.S. security assistance.
Johnson says he's simply holding this administration accountable.
The irony is what Joe Biden is doing for political purposes to try to appease the pro-Hamas, people in his party, I guess, they're pro-Palestinian. He's doing real harm to the cause and the protection of innocent life.
And Fox is told to expect a floor vote as early as this Thursday. On Capitol Hill, I'm Aisha Hasni, Fox News.
Meanwhile, President Biden slapped new tariffs on some Chinese imports today as he aims to prove he's tougher on China than his predecessor. Fox's Rebecca Castor has details.
President Biden taking aim at China and significantly increasing tariffs on some Chinese exports. A move the president says is aimed at protecting American workers.
It's not competition, it's cheating. And we've seen damage here in America.
The tariffs, which build on Trump-era policies, include 25 to 50% increases on steel and aluminum, batteries, semiconductors, and some medical equipment. But the largest is a 100% increase on Chinese electric vehicles, as the Biden administration continues to push American car manufacturers towards EVs.
We're never going to allow China to unfairly control the market for these cars, period.
But his political rival Donald Trump says the tariffs are too little, too late.
Where have you been for 3.5 years? They should have done it a long time ago. But they've also got to do it on other vehicles, and they have to do it on a lot of other products, because China's eating our lunch right now.
He said China is eating our lunch. That's what Trump said today. We've been feeding it a long time.
In an interview with Yahoo Finance, Biden says he expects China will retaliate, possibly by raising tariffs on unrelated products. But the White House is downplaying any concerns.
There's no need for a trade war. That is not what this is not what this is about. This is about protecting, again, American workers. This is about protecting American businesses.
The tariffs are also likely to throw a wrench in the new and fragile cooperation officials in Washington and Beijing have been building over recent months. In Washington, Rebecca Castor, Fox News.
The long-awaited moment in former President Trump's New York trial has come. Trump attorneys grilled Michael Cohen, trying to discredit the key witness against him. Fox's Connor Hansen has more.
Donald Trump's former attorney and fixer, Michael Cohen, has been on the stand for 2 days. He says Trump reimbursed him for a $130,000 payment to keep Stormy Daniels quiet ahead of the 2016 election. When Trump's lawyer had his turn to question Cohen, he tried to paint him as a liar who was obsessed with Mr. Trump. Cohen was asked about his efforts to get his prison sentence reduced by cooperating with an investigation into the former president. Defense attorneys also brought up social media posts and videos in which Cohen said he wants to see Trump get convicted.
You should be equally concerned about how the legal system is being weaponized and abused for partisan purposes. Remember this. All over the world, they're watching this trial, and they're seeing what a disgrace this is, and a big disgrace to New York.
Legal experts agree Cohen's testimony will be key in the jury's decision.
It's going to hinge, bottom line, on whether or not this jury believes what Michael Cohen is saying.
While Trump supporters are attacking Cohen's credibility, his former lawyer points out a judge in another Trump case bought his testimony.
In the AG trial, it may have been non-biblical, but it was pretty severe by the Trump attorney in cross-examining. What did the sitting judge write after that cross-examination? That he found Michael Cohen credible.
Trump's attorney says he expects to finish cross-examining Cohen by the end of the week. He told the judge they have not decided whether Trump will take the stand. In New York, Connor Hansen, Fox News.
And still to come on Fox 22 News at 10, an event today commemorated the landmark Supreme Court case ending racial segregation at schools. And in sports, Maine baseball has a must-win series ahead of them in order to take the America East, or in order to make the America East tournament. They can get it done against Albany. We'll be right back.
Jamie Foxx is back.
Season 7. Our contestants have won over $10 million.
An all-new season of Beat Shazam premieres May 28th on Fox.
Summer's here, and with a new Toyota, you can capture all the summer fun. Wow. My favorite party trick.
College students and recent grads could get a $500 rebate over and above most other offers. Toyota, let's go places.
Breathing Claritin Clear is like feeling the breeze instead of feeling congested. Fast relief of allergies with nasal congestion so you can breathe better. Claritin plus decongestant. Live Claritin Clear.
Let's face it, getting training and experience is hard, but at Loring Job Corps, we can help. From certifications in automotive technology, obtaining your CDL, or learning building trades, we have you covered. Maybe you prefer joining the high-tech world of computer networking or cybersecurity. We have that as well. Don't delay, get in the driver's seat to your future today. And the best part, Loring Job Corps is free. Receive free training, free meals, and even free housing. Call or go to jobcorps.gov/Loring. Job Corps careers begin here.
Roto-Rooter has served the greater Bangor area and beyond for 35 years, offering plumbing, hydrojetting, snaking, descaling, video inspection, and grease interceptor cleaning services. For all your residential and commercial clogs, call Roto-Rooter today, 990-1234.
And away go troubles down the drain. Roto-Rooter.
What do heavy rain, extreme heat, and flying lumber all have in common? They're just a few of the things we use to test our replacement windows. At Renewal by Andersen, we put our windows through the worst because your home deserves the best. Renewal by Andersen Acclaim Custom Replacement Windows. Call or visit us online today to get some incredible savings. Affordable financing, too.
Thousands of kids like Grayson and Elliot receive care at Northern Light Eastern Maine Medical Center each year. You can help them by supporting the Summer Classic for Maine Kids. This golf tournament will help kids receive care at Northern Light Eastern Maine Medical Center by raising funds to ensure that health care is available today, tomorrow, and in the years ahead. Every dollar raised helps kids get back to the business of being kids. For more information about the tournament and how to register, please visit northernlight.org/forkids.
Brown versus Board of Education hits another milestone Friday. On Tuesday, the Department of Education and Department of Justice hosted an event commemorating the decision. The landmark Supreme Court case ended racial segregation in schools across the country. But as frank discussions pointed out today, racism still infiltrates schools today. Fox's Mike Emanuel has the details.
We are not given access to the same amount of resources, to the same quality of education. And if we don't have that, how are we supposed to be successful?
Our schools are segregated because our communities are segregated. Our social circles are segregated.
Student advocates share why they think American schools are still segregated at an event remembering the Brown versus Board of Education decision. 2024 marks 70 years since the U.S. Supreme Court declared separate but equal unconstitutional. But Education Secretary Miguel Cardona admitted racism just looks different in this day and age.
Black students may no longer need to be escorted to school by U.S. Marshals today. We have a system where we have normalized underinvesting in schools that serve a majority black communities.
Really, every day you walk around and you see students who are being heavily affected by problems like this, like myself.
According to Axios, a review of federal data and 2 new reports show racial segregation in schools across the country has increased dramatically over the last 3 decades.
Brown versus Board and its legacy remind us of who we want to be as a nation. A place that upholds values of justice and equity as its highest ideals.
Also in attendance at the event were 3 of the members of the New Orleans 4, They were 6 in 1960 when they faced death threats, racial slurs, and taunts for going to school. In Washington, Mike Emanuel, Fox News.
Part of a plane caught fire shortly after arriving at SeaTac Airport in Washington State. It happened on May 6th. A Delta flight arrived from Cancun when a fire sparked near the nose of the plane. Delta says in a statement the flight crew saw smoke in the nose area after plugging it into ground electrical power. People in the process of deplaning, and Delta says out of an abundance of caution, passengers who were still on board were evacuated using slides. The first person ever to receive a kidney from a pig has died 7 weeks after the surgery. The surgery at Massachusetts General Hospital in March marked a medical milestone. 62-year-old Richard Slayman of Weymouth received the kidney from a pig that had been genetically modified. Hospital officials say there was no indication Slayman's death was related to the transplant. Nearly 90,000 people are on the national waiting list for a kidney. Doctors say the main problem with using an animal kidney is the human immune system rejects animal tissue as foreign, often leading to serious complications. Multiple people died after 2 severe storm systems converged in Louisiana. Fox's Matt Finn has the latest.
2 severe storms converged in Louisiana Monday night, creating tornado conditions. A storm with strong wind and rain crossed into the state from Texas in the afternoon. As it moved east, it collided with a second storm system coming up from the Gulf of Mexico.
The system became both dangerous and deadly. At all times, the state's warning system was in place and weather alerts went out.
The Louisiana Department of Health confirmed at least 3 people died, including a woman who was 9 months pregnant. Her unborn child did not survive either after a tree fell onto their West Baton Rouge home.
I believe we were extremely lucky, by the grace of God, that we did not have any more injuries. We certainly will keep the families of those that were affected in our prayers.
The storms caused damage to trees and power lines, like here in Lake Charles. Louisiana residents also received flash flood warnings.
Oh, his lights are messed up. You see that?
In a span of less than 8 hours, 16 parishes were impacted, resulting in 160,000 power outages. State officials thank police, firefighters, first responders, and linemen for working around the clock.
Thanks to all the utility companies, we're down to 53,000. And it continues to get better every hour.
The governor warned residents to stay vigilant as another storm is expected later this week. Since April 25th, at least 267 tornadoes have been confirmed in the U.S. In Los Angeles, Matt Finn, Fox News.
All right, and when we come back, we'll have all the details on our full 5-day forecast.
Almost summer-like temperatures out there today, 60s, even some 70s out there. But I am tracking much warmer temperatures back in our forecast very soon. When? I'll have the timing and more coming up.
Fires, floods, burst pipes. Disasters happen, but the mess they leave behind doesn't have to last. For 40 years, Bouchard Cleaning and Restoration has been there to help Mainers get back to the closest to normal as they can. When your property is at its worst, Bouchard Cleaning and Restoration is at their best, and they have been for 4 decades. Put your trust in the Bouchard team. Bouchard Cleaning and Restoration. You keep the memories, we'll handle the rest.
And Doug.
Limu. Someone needs to customize and save hundreds on car insurance with Liberty Mutual. Let's fly. Chief?
Doug.
Oh, wow. I thought you were right behind me.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
When the acres add up, so does the work. The Kubota LO2 series is ready for it. Part of the #1 rated tractor brand for durability and owner experience, it features powerful, dependable Kubota diesel engines, performance-matched attachments, and the versatility to get the job done right.
Available at Doors Equipment, 1468 Outer Hammond Street, Bangor.
We're lucky to live in Maine.
We have a wealth of natural resources, hardworking people, and time for the things that matter. Mechanical Services is all about Maine, with energy efficiency that protects our environment and helps businesses grow. Preventive maintenance and energy solutions that save money. How Maine is that? Mechanical Services. We're everywhere you are in Maine.
This summer, it's not about what you know.
How many total noodles are there?
It's how you think.
Do not feel ashamed. You're as stupid as I am.
The 1% Club premieres Monday, June 3rd on Fox.
Our Maine weather tonight is brought to you by Washington County Community College. Discover choices, create success. Don't miss out on free college. And another wet day out there south of our area for the most part, closer to Raleigh into D.C. and same story down south of that. Did see a little bit of severe weather closer to Georgia, but now things are starting to wind down. But the rain is still going to continue. And we're going to continue to see a few passing scattered showers as well. And that will be the case the next several days. So a little bit more of an active weather pattern here in the Northeast, the Midwest, Upper Midwest, and the South once again is going to be looking at more chances of rain. And we will see that rain rolling on in the next few days. Same story for the weekend. So get ready and have those umbrellas handy. Now, rainfall-wise, though, just maybe a tenth of an inch of rain here in town. A lot more just north of town. You got Dover, Foxcroft, Millinocket, Greenville. I do think the satellite is underdoing it significantly at the coast. I do think they're going to get a bit more than just a trace of rain. Now, temperature-wise, though, our average is around that 65-degree mark. Today, closer to average. Tomorrow, well above average. Into Thursday, that streak continues into Friday. A little bit cooler Saturday into Sunday, but still closer to average temperatures. And once again, bam, right back into the 70s, possibly by beginning of next week. So a good-looking temperature trend is in our forecast. Now, we are seeing those winds blowing off the coast. That was happening earlier today. Now, things are starting to calm down just a little bit. Not quite here in town. We still have that pocket of some stronger winds in and around Bangor, with winds gusting around 20-plus miles an hour. For tonight, though, we're going to continue to see those breezy conditions here in town. For the most part, we're going to stay pretty calm, but we will continue to see a few scattered showers and, of course, some areas of dense fog once again. Now, take a look at these temperatures, though. Our average is much cooler than that. It's closer to 40. Well, we're only going to be in those mid to upper 40s overnight tonight into tomorrow morning, so definitely a milder start to the day. And then for tomorrow, though, check this out. A beautiful looking day. We're going to be back in those mid 70s, but we're not quite seeing perfect weather. We are going to see those partly cloudy skies, but look at this. We will continue to see just a few passing sprinkles here and there. For the most part, we will stay dry with a light breeze once again. Our extended forecast outlook is showing more rain back in the forecast, especially by Thursday. Temperature-wise, though, not bad, right? We're going to be above average, around 70 degrees. Then it looks like for Friday, we're going to be mainly in the clear. Still, a couple of lingering sprinkles are possible. By Saturday, the chances start to increase. By Sunday, we will continue to see some cloudy skies. Temperature-wise, though, back in those mid-60s.
All righty, Conrad, thank you, and stay tuned for sports coming right up next.
There's electricity in the air at your New England Ford dealers, your electric vehicle headquarters, where you'll find the exciting Ford Lightning, the only EV that can say it's a Ford F-150, and the super quick Ford Mustang Mach-E with storage in the front and the back, along with a whole host of high-tech features. These EVs are in stock and ready for immediate delivery. The future is here, and its name is Ford. Now get 0% APR for 72 months plus $3,000 bonus cash, or lease for $399 a month for 36 months.
Who has the best kept secret in Penobscot County?
We do!
Welcome to Maple Lane Farms, a fifth-generation family farm that's committed to providing you with the best quality products. Our farm-raised local and sustainable meat is flash frozen to lock in the freshness and natural flavors. Experience the top-notch quality of our meat that's naturally raised without any antibiotics or hormones. Get the best of both worlds, quality and affordability. Try Maple Lane Farms today, the candy store for the carnivore.
Jim Small Engines, Snows Corner Road, Arlington, brings years of experience and a large parts inventory to make your engine as good as new. Lawnmowers, chainsaws, rototillers, wood splitters, generators, blowers, trimmers, and power washers will leave Jim Small Engines fully repaired, shiny clean, and ready to go. Jim Small Engines is an authorized dealer for these top brands and sells a wide array of used engines as well as new and used parts and accessories. Call Jim Small Engines at 825-3527. Check their website and like them on Facebook.
Transform your surroundings with Paramount Paving, located in Bangor. They are your paving and seal coating experts. Whether it's residential maintenance to full commercial projects, Paramount Paving delivers quality that lasts. Book before June 1st and enjoy a $250 Visa gift card upon completion of your next paving project. Call us today at 602-8931 or visit us at ParamountPavingLLC.com. Paramount Paving, setting the standard for excellence. When it comes to paving, we are Paramount.
Tonight's Sports is brought to you by Diversified Ink Tattoo Studio in Bangor, located in the Penobscot Plaza, providing custom ink by licensed artists for more than 20 years.
We are heading back to Boston. Welcome back in, everyone. Thank you for staying with us. The Bruins, with their backs against the wall on Tuesday night, down 3-1, pulling a win out against the Florida Panthers. Let's roll the clips. Brad Marchand out for Game 5 with an upper body injury. He's still there to support the captain in street clothes. First period is where we'll kick it off. No score. Jake DeBrusk is going to get it here behind the net, and he finds Morgan Geekie, who scores with the backhand, his 4th goal of the playoffs. Bruins strike first. Second period, Aaron Ekblad here. His shot is blocked by Sam Reinhart. Reinhart gets it back and buries the wrister. His 5th goal of the playoffs, all tied up. Later in the second now, same score. Bruins with it in transition. Charlie Coyle drops it for Charlie McAvoy, who fires top shelf, his 1st goal of the playoffs. Bruins take a 2-1 lead. Under 15 seconds to go in the third, same score. Panthers 6-on-5. Brandon Montour across to Reinhart. Look at Jeremy Swayman with the stop. Justin Brazeau would clear the zone. Bruins go on to win 2-1. Here's Swayman after the game.
I just embrace everything with open arms and a smile, and I'm just so proud of the guys in front of me, the way that they battled, played the systems well, communication, everything, and it showed tonight. We had an edge, and we weren't taking no for an answer.
All right, big win there. Let's pivot over to the Diamond now in Maine baseball. After a disappointing regular season, the Black Bears now playing for their America East playoff lives, and it all comes down to this weekend. After defeating Bryant on Sunday, the Black Bears just have to win their final regular season series against Albany. They have to take 2 of 3, and they are in the America East tournament. If the Black Bears get in, they will be the last seed, but they don't see themselves as the underdogs at all. They have no doubt that even with all of the injuries they've sustained and how this season has turned out, they're capable of getting in and making some noise if they play their best ball.
We don't use the underdog, we don't use the word chase, we don't use any of that. This team has never doubted themselves. I've never thought we were a losing team. Our losses have been simply that, us losing baseball games. It's a rarity, you know, when we go out and play our best games that we get beat. It's us versus us.
Getting that win on Sunday was very crucial for us because now we're coming off a win, pitching and timely hitting. That's what we did when we got that win there, and that's what we got to do this weekend. But this time we just got to do it for 2 games.
This weekend's going to show a lot of different things. I'm sure we're going to be up, we're going to be down, and be in different positions. But for us to be able to just stick to what we do and trust the preparation and just go out and win.
Moving on now to some high school softball over in Skowhegan. The Riverhawks made a run to the regional finals a year ago. They're picking up where they left off. Skowhegan is 9-1 to start the year, and they have a truly complete squad, and the numbers don't lie. 8 of their 9 wins coming via the 10-run rule, and 6 of those wins being shutouts. The team says that those hot bats are the biggest key to their success, as well as the team chemistry, and that comes with having 9 seniors.
We're all hitting very well. Not many of us are striking out, and we're making the plays we need to win the game. We're just working as a team.
We came in hitting 10 times better. Even in our tryouts, we just played a lot better than we did last year. We all grew up together and all come with a lot of energy, and we make sure to stay up in the dugout to cheer everyone on.
The Riverhawks are looking for their first Class A North title since 2021 after losing last season to a walk-off against Oxford Hills. The Vikings are number 1 in the class again and handed Skowhegan their only loss this season, so the hunger from the Hawks is stronger than ever. As long as they tie up some loose ends, the seniors can end their careers on top just as they started them.
When we played them, we had a lot of field errors. And once we clean up those errors, I think we'll be okay. We want to win. We come to win. We had it our freshman year, and I want to do it again.
I believe that was just an off game for us. I think we have the ability to win. Our whole lives have dreamed of it, and I think it can come to fruition.
Back to the baseball diamond now. We'll head to a Class B North matchup up at the home of the Coyotes in Old Town. Coyotes are at the top of Class B North right now, and the MDI Trojans trying to grab a road win. Nate Baker on third here for Julian Duty. Duty grounds to short. Nice smooth play from Colin Sullivan of the Trojans, but the run comes in to score. That makes it 2-0 Old Town. Same inning, 2 outs, and Jay Haney is going to get out of the inning for the Trojans. He strikes out Aiden Gom swinging. Nice job there. Coyotes getting some dominant pitching from Duty, too. He's going to get Joey Wellman-Klaus swinging here in the third. To the bottom of the third we go. Runner on for Brandon Mahaney. Mahaney crushes this ball to left field. That is going to one-hop the wall. Runner's going to get held up at third, though, and then the bases would be loaded after the next batter walks. Nate Baker comes through. This one gets down in right field. 2 runs come in to score. Coyotes, they go on to win it this one. 6-0 is your final. And over to the basketball court now. The WNBA season tipping off on Tuesday night, and it was the much-anticipated debut for Caitlin Clark, the star from Iowa State University. The last 2 years in the NCAA, Clark was the #1 overall pick to the Indiana Fever, and the Fever played their season opener in Connecticut against the Sun at Mohegan Sun Arena. Clark had 20 points and 3 assists in the 92-71 loss. She also had 10 turnovers, but her and DeWanna Bonner each the game-high scorers with 20. Definitely the start of a big career there. That is all the time we have for sports. We'll be right back after the break.
Come bowl a few games here at Bangor Brewer Bowling Lanes. We're one of the only candlepin bowling alley centers in Maine, conveniently located in the heart of Brewer. You always have the opportunity to simply bowl for fun. However, you can also join a league. We have youth leagues, adult and senior leagues. Now don't forget, we also host birthday parties for under $100, and gift certificates are also available. Give us a call right away at 989-3798 to make reservations for your birthday party today.
It was one thing when my mom got Alzheimer's, but then we started noticing things that seemed off. She developed agitation that may happen with dementia due to Alzheimer's disease. Sometimes she'd fidget with her fingers, get suddenly overwhelmed, and even throw things. And that was just never her. So we asked her doctor what else we could do.
Rexulti is the only FDA-approved medication proven to reduce agitation symptoms that may happen with dementia due to Alzheimer's disease. Rexulti can cause serious side effects. Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke, report fever, stiff muscles, and confusion, which can be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High blood sugar, which can lead to coma or death, weight gain, increased cholesterol, low white blood cells, unusual urges, dizziness on standing, falls, seizures, trouble swallowing, or sleepiness may occur.
Rexulti helped reduce my mom's symptoms.
Take action for your loved one. Ask their doctor about Rexulti.
The insurance company wants nothing more than to deny your claim.
Deny.
Meet John.
Delay.
The adjuster. He sticks
Deny.
to the 3 Ds.
Delay. Deny. No. Devalue.
And if he does have to pay, it's often with a very tiny check.
At first I was going to delay, and then I thought, no. Denied.
They called the law offices of Joe Bornstein.
Maybe we should settle this one.
If you've been injured in an accident, call Joe, the law offices of Joe Bornstein.
Welcome to 207 Wellness, where transformation begins from within. Embark on a journey of self-betterment with our comprehensive services from weight management to IV hydration, vitamin supplementation, and neurotoxin injections. 207 Wellness is here to support your wellness goals. Take the first step toward a healthier, happier you, rejuvenate your body, refresh your mind, and reclaim your vitality with 207 Wellness. Transform your wellness, transform your life. Give us a call today.
Hi, Eastern Maine. Watch 25 Words or Less with me, Meredith Vieira, weekdays at 9 a.m. after Good Morning Maine on Fox 22.
Welcome back. Calkins Farm Stand in Hamden is open for the season. Like many other greenhouses and gardens around, it's just bursting with color. However, what makes this family-owned business different is this is its 100th year in operation. Our Jody Hersey takes us there.
As they say, a farmer is one of the best gamblers in the world.
Calkins Farm Stand has been a longtime fixture on the main road in Hamden.
We definitely have a core group that comes back to us every year that we see, but I am seeing some new faces because I've been doing this my whole life.
Ben Nelson is the owner. His family business has been supplying customers with flowers, vegetables, and seeds to get their own gardens blooming. However, Calkins has seen a lot of changes in the 100 years it's been in operation.
We used to be egg farm, now we do very little of that. It used to be all vegetables, we never did any flowers, now we're doing flowers. So you have to adapt to what the market is.
Ben's dad, Kevin Nelson, says he knows why customers keep stopping by.
What they're getting is a good plant and then good vegetables also, because we don't do the herbicides or the pesticides, so unlike a lot of the stuff that you can find at the other stores.
Spending a century in business doesn't guarantee that you won't have a bad crop every now and then.
Last year was so wet and rainy that if you didn't have luck last year, that's not uncommon. We struggled with stuff last year. Don't gauge your skills off of last year.
Ben Nelson says what really makes things grow is planting something you love.
You got to grow something that you like. If you don't like it, you're not going to take care of it and it's not going to do well. If you like it, you're going to try and give it what it needs.
In Hamden, I'm Jody Hersey for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
Some great advice there, and we wish them success in the years to come. Finally tonight, employees at Northern Light Eastern Maine Medical Center were treated to the perfect way to relax today as they took part in the cat yoga trend. As part of their celebrations for National Hospital Week, the medical center is taking steps to care for the well-being of hospital employees. A large focus of the events this week centers around mental health and stress relief. Employees say the cat yoga is a great way to relax and recharge while meeting some furry friends from the Bangor Humane Society.
Not only is it a good stress relief to be able to cuddle with an animal, and that's good cardiac care, and the more we take care of ourselves, the better we are at taking care of our patients.
Hospital administrators say the hospital is also doing community engagement and outreach all week long and holding events to give back to their employees. And what better way to unwind than spending some time with some animals? Love to see that. All right, everyone, thanks so much for tuning in tonight. That's all for us here on Fox 22 News at 10. We hope you have a great rest of your evening.